Hey guys, welcome back. Recently, Gate Enterprise was super kind and sent over several airsoft MOSFETs. Last time you guys saw the version 3 Aster and all the awesomeness it had to offer. Today we're checking out a rear-wired version 2 Gate Aster. I'm going to install this in my ICS M4, one of the older gray body models, and see what kind of awesomeness we can get out of this versus some old standard trigger contacts. In addition, Gate sent over their new plug-and-play Bluetooth programming device called the Blu-Link. We're going to be setting up the version 2 Aster with this today via my Android phone. The version 2 Gate, of course, comes with your normal patch. I love that they actually include a patch of the product. Very, very cool. Comes with a rather comprehensive little manual here. They tell you everything you need to know about installation, programming, and troubleshooting. So you also get a little cheat sheet programming card here. This is pretty neat. It gives you all the options for everything you can do with your Gate Aster. You get a small install kit too. This contains all the pins, screws, heat shrink, and all that cool stuff for setting up your Aster in your airsoft gun. And finally, the version 2 Aster itself. Comes with the Dean's connector, so all my batteries will fit, thankfully, since they're all wired to Dean's. And let's go install this at the tech table right now. I've gone ahead and opened up the lower half of the gearbox for the ICS M4 and installed, at least screwed in, the Gate Aster for version 2. Now, because these wires do take up a little bit more room, I do recommend that on the opposite side of the gearbox, these little pins, probably shade those down to clear up a little bit of room. Something I have seen way too many people do is install these wires right underneath where the motor pinion goes in a really odd way. So make sure these are as flat as possible and offer as much room as possible for the motor shaft and pinion to enter the lower gearbox. One more thing I will note is that I did remove a piece of heat shrink that was here that bound the two black wires together. It seemed like it was going to impede one of the sensors here. I didn't want that to happen, so just in case. When you install your little gearbox stickers here, and the instructions will show you the correct placement for those, make sure that when you're putting that on, you really well clean your gearbox. Grease and sticker adhesive do not go well together at all. Please keep in mind that because I'm endeavoring to put this in an ICS gearbox, a little bit of Dremel work has been required. Probably did a little more than I needed, but the sticker's in there right where it needs to be. Today I'll also be installing the Gate Quantum trigger. This is supposed to give you a much greater sensitivity on your trigger pull. I do want to go over a few of the difficulties I did have installing the Aster into an ICS gun specifically. Because there is no trigger switch to spring back off of, I did have to actually bend the front of the spring so that it would catch on the front of the lower gearbox here. Otherwise, it would be touching one of the contacts, and we don't want that. The second difficulty I had was with the Ics Selector Plate, specifically the metal contact on it. It seems to be a little bit wider than your standard metal contact plate, so I tried a couple of different things. So the contact was somehow reflecting, making it think it was in full auto when it was on semi. So what I tried was the sticker, and when that didn't work, I totally took this off and just tried a basic sticker on there. It still thought it was in full auto when it was on semi. So I had to use one of the stickers here that had a little bit of black on one side, and that fixed the problem just fine. I have to admit, I wasn't sure about the quantum trigger at first. It's kind of odd looking, but it's a neat design and it feels really good. I do like the kind of odd metallic gray it has. It matches the ICS body really nicely and complements it. Thankfully, the Gate Aster has sufficient wiring lengths to go all the way to the end of an M16 size full stock, just by about a ½ inch of wiring there. So I do have it pretty well in here. I do have the Gate Blu-Link hooked up to it, and we're going to use this to program the Gate Aster today. So I'm going to start by plugging in a little 7.4 LiPo here. It's going to light up green. I'm going to hear our 2 beeps, and it's going to start blinking blue, indicating that we can connect our phone to it now. Before pairing, make sure your Bluetooth and your location are both turned on. I'm going to be using my Samsung S8, it's an Android phone, to program this today. Go ahead and open up your GCS app here. And I'm going to hit New Device, and you can see my Bluetooth Blu-Link there has already been set up. If you're just doing this for the first time, you've never paired it before, this isn't going to be here. You're going to want to hit the little refresh button up here, and then it should populate shortly after. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. It's going to connect to my Blu-Link. So after connected, it's indicating that shooting mode is on right now. If I want to go to programming mode and not have my trigger function while I'm setting it up, hit the little button right there. It'll say connecting to ETU. Take a second. And we've got it all set up here. Now this is the expert version of the Gate Aster, so it's got all the bells and whistles unlocked and all its capabilities you can set up. You'll notice there are 3 profiles up here that's actually indicative of the expert version. It's one of the cool features you unlock there. So You'll notice I have none of the profiles set up because I actually haven't programmed this. I just did the selector setup on it, and that's really about it. If you want, you can actually change profiles via your selector on the fly, which is actually rather neat. I'm going to leave that off right now, but you can do that on the fly or during game if you really need to. Cycle detection, I'm going to leave that on as well, but you do have some manual cycle options, or you can turn it off if you want. So on, I think, is probably the way to go there. Your battery protection, I've got it set to LiPo right now, but you can turn it off or set it to LIFE or manual. I'm a LiPo guy, so I'm going to leave it on LiPo. Battery cells, you can set it to 2, 3, either of those, or auto if you want to. I'm going to leave it on auto because I do tend to swap between 7.4s and 11.1s on some guns. Your low battery warning, you can switch between several settings here. I'm going to leave it on 3.1. Just leave it on the standard setting. I don't see any reason to really change that. You do have a safety series you can turn on here, and you can indicate how many BBs you want to set that to. I'm gonna leave it off. Active braking, you can switch from manual and put it on adaptive if you want to. I'm gonna put it on manual, and I don't like to put tons and tons of wear on my motors, so I'm gonna put it on 50% there. So I think that's a pretty reasonable number. Yeah, that's about everything under general. Let's go to the trigger and see what options we have there. Under trigger settings, I can go under the preferences there and set the sensitivity I want. So if I really want, I can set it all the way to 0, or actually 1, because it doesn't quite let you go to 0. But that essentially is saying that if there is the slightest movement on your trigger, it'll shoot. So I'm going to leave it there, and we can try and mess around with that a little bit later and see how it performs. We do have the option for 2-stage trigger here as well, and we can set our options here for safe or burst on the first stage, and auto, burst, or burst auto on the second stage. And also the 2-stage trigger sensitivity as well for semi and full auto. I'm going to turn it back to 1 stage so I can show off some other things here in a second. We've got settings for pre-cocking, which comes off. I'm going to leave it off, but we can do either manual or just straight up off, and our settings here for that as well. Rate of fire control is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to leave it off normally, but you do have a lot of different settings here. They really give you quite a bit of control for just about anything you really want. EQ settings, that comes off, but you do have a couple levels there as well, and a manual setting. And a sniper delay. I can't say I'm going to probably use this. I currently have this in just a regular old field rifle, but you do have manual and manual with calibration on this one. So you can set your interval, how long you want between shots. After the trigger, we can go to the selector here. We can see that safe, semi, and full auto are all functional. And I'm flipping my selector there just to double check. Now, since it's on the 1-stage trigger, I can access all the different trigger settings here. We have binary, burst, full auto, semi, safe, pretty much anything you want, and that's on the safe setting. So I can have a fire mode on safe, semi, and full auto. It's really rather neat. Semi, well, the first stage or first setting. On the semi setting, I do have it on semi because I'm a pretty basic human. I'm going to leave it there, but you do have all the same options as you would any other selector mode. So you can really mix and match pretty much any way you want to. Lots and lots and lots of options. For this last one, I am going to set a burst because I do want to show off the burst functionality here. We can either do full or interruptible. I'm going to leave it on full, and it comes set to 3, but you can do all the way up to a wicked 99 round full burst if you want to. That straight up mean I'm going to be a little nicer and a little more traditional and leave it on 3-round burst there. After selector, we do have some magazine options here. Magazine mode normally comes off, but you can switch it to simulated, and then you can do how many rounds you want in your magazine. It looks like you can have up to 250 rounds in your magazine. So it's kind of set up for a mid cap. Some of the lower high caps you could probably do it, but to a less degree of accuracy it seems like. I'm going to actually turn that back down to say 30, which is the kind of normal and stock setting. Reload time comes stock to 3 seconds, but you can have quite a bit of time here, up to 10 seconds if you want. And your low ammo warning. I'll turn that on. And it's set to as many rounds as it looks like you have in your magazine. Alerts. I've got a vibration warning, which I'm going to turn off there. And other than that, I don't have anything, but occasionally if you have any errors or something that's going on with your MOSFET that isn't normal, they'll pop up in here. Telemetry, we do have some basic stuff here. Rate of fire achieved, not super fast with this little 7.4 running, but it does run a lot faster when I plug in a big old 11.1 to it. Your trigger response here in milliseconds, 75 is pretty high. And rate of fire achieved on semi, nothing special at 5. Then we've also got your electrical statistics here, your temperature of your Aster, and you can hear the great train horn back there. Oh yeah, trains. And the voltage. So I'm running at 7.7 volts there on this little 7.4 volt. Not super powerful, but enough to get to run. Diagnostics, I have nothing there currently. And this device does say I have a quantum trigger in there, and it gives you all my information. If you don't have your GCS app, your Blu-Link, your link cable, or any other way of connecting to your Gate Aster, you can always use the little cheat sheet here and use trigger pulls to program your Gate Aster. All programming settings are on here, and you don't need any extra hardware to set up your Gate Aster. Again, I do have the trigger settings set as sensitive as they can go, so let's see how it performs. Whew, man, that is about as hair trigger as you can get. That's on binary, so that's when you pull and release, it shoots. So I can sit here and you can almost really get that full auto down pretty quickly just by barely breathing on that trigger. That's easily less than a millimeter of trigger pull. That is really cool. Let's go to burst mode there. And this is on a really big 4,000 milliamp hour 11.1 volt battery. It's a pretty hefty battery, and I think it's a lot for this motor. So given this is a pretty old turbo 3000 motor in this gun, I do highly recommend picking up one of these Gate Blu-Links. They are so very convenient when setting up your Gate Aster. It is extremely awesome. I can leave this plugged in during the game and use it, and Bluetooth my phone on the fly without having to open up my battery compartment, set anything up, or plug anything else in. I can simply Bluetooth to the device. So it is very convenient. I've had a great experience with the Gate Aster so far. It's been really fantastic. The expert settings on it give you so much versatility to do whatever you want with so little hassle. It really turns your airsoft gun into something completely different, and it is a lot of fun to use in the field and to set up and just really mess around with. There's so many sensitivity and programming settings on this. You will go crazy messing with it until your heart's content. The Blu-Link is a definite asset to setting everything up on the fly, and it makes life a whole lot more convenient with the setup. So definitely recommend checking one of these out. Thanks for watching. I'm Prodigy from Airsoft Team Kilo 23, and a big thanks to Gate Enterprise for letting me check one of these out. It's been a lot of fun, and I've been able to bring my ICS M4 up to a whole new level with it. Thanks guys, and I'll see you in the next review.